Welcome to the After Dark podcast, the podcast in which Anthony leads his unknowing friend Konrad by the hand through TV shows. Will Konrad like them? Will Konrad hate them? Will Konrad predict what's going to happen, or will he be lost in the dark? Find out now, only on the After Dark podcast.
Hello, and welcome to the After Dark podcast. I'm Anthony, and that's Konrad.
Hello!
That's him. Well, Konrad, we're here. We've got our backpacks, we've got our rucksacks, we've got everything else. We've got our suitcases, all sorts of bags. You know, all sorts of bags. Not plastic bags. We've learned our lesson before. Right, okay. I don't know what that means, but you know. Learned our lesson in terms of the environment is what I mean. We're setting up for a journey, Konrad, is what we're doing. We are setting up to start the OA. Anyone who's joining us just for the OA, because I'm going to try and plaster this all over certain forums to try and get people interested. If you're joining us for the OA, we just did Dark. So if you like Dark, you can go and watch that whole thing. We did a whole journey on that as well. Now we're going to go through the OA. And Konrad, now we have to sort of give a few provisos in terms of the first episode. Don't expect Konrad to be coming out swinging with crazy theories. I think he's tempted. He's tempted to come out and just be like, so-and-so does this, and just go mental with the theories.
Yeah, like giving it the big one, but
yeah.
I'm not going to do that.
Yeah, he's going to be a bit restrained maybe for the first few episodes. Get his feelers out. You know, he needs to get his feelers out before he starts predicting that certain people are going to cast some spells.
Let me get my feet under the table first, here, guys.
Yeah.
You know, let me just settle in.
Exactly. So yeah, the OA. I'm really, really excited. Connor, how have you been this week?
I've been very well, thank you. We had a slight COVID scare, which we're still waiting for the results of, but I think everyone's fine, so that's always exciting in this I was going to say post-pandemic world. It's very much mid-pandemic world that we're living in at the moment. Apart from that, just carrying on as usual. Very looking forward to getting into the OA. Actually, it's not. I'll say this at the offset. Wasn't really what I expected it to be, but we'll discuss that more as we get into it. How have you been?
Yeah, no, I've been good. Just remote learning, teaching over the internets. Trying my best. But just very, very boring life these days, really.
Apart from the ongoing and never-ending excitement that is the Culture Cave YouTube channel.
That's what I was going to say. If it wasn't for the Culture Cave YouTube channel, I wouldn't be bored, let's be honest. I've got a loving family and we play in games all the time, all sort of thing. But it keeps a certain sort of formality in your mind about what we're doing every day, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, really enjoyed it. Right, Konrad. First, before we get into the thing, I'm going to say subscribe to us on podcasting apps if you haven't already. If you want to subscribe on YouTube, the Culture Cave at YouTube, that'd be great as well. You can also send us an email with comments, questions, critiques of Konrad, anything you want. adpodmail@gmail.com. We also could take comments underneath this video for questions for episode 2 of the OA. Now, we have some questions. I also will say there are a lot of people in the comment section who are going to be on this video who are being Konrads. They have never seen the show. They're going through episode by episode with us. If you are a Konrad, could you please make sure sorry. If you're an Anthony, could you please make sure that anything you're saying could be spoiler tagged if you're talking about future episodes? Konrads who are throwing out theories, we'll see how we get on. If I start seeing theories that I think are too close to the bone, and I start to think maybe some people are getting everything right,
our listeners would never.
They would. I know you would never, guys. But if you are, maybe I'll start saying that we should spoiler tag, like theory tag, and you put theory, and then like enter, and then put the thing. Maybe we could do that, and people click on theories knowing that someone could be lying. I don't think we'll need to do that. Let's be honest. I don't think we'll need to do that.
If you are a Konrad and you're listening to this, welcome to the club. It's great here. We have those little sausages and pineapple on cocktail sticks.
Well,
do they still serve those anywhere? I mean, obviously they don't serve them anywhere because the world is gripped by a nightmarish disease. But like, is that just me exposing that I'm in my 30s? That's my go-to party food reference.
What, cocktail sticks?
Yeah, like pineapple and cheese and sausages on cocktail sticks.
I don't know. You know what my go-to cocktail stick thing is? Is a little pickled onion with a cube of cheddar.
That's disgusting.
Lovely.
Pickled onion can get fucked. I like onion. I cook with onion all the time. Pickled onion, it's just like This is a tangent. We're going to go off on a tangent here for a second, folks. I'll wrangle us back. Don't worry. There is a passage in what I can't remember which one of the books it is, but in one of the Song of Ice and Fire books, where Sir Davos just takes a fucking bite out of an onion, just a raw onion. And
he's the Onion Knight. He's the Onion Knight.
Well, yeah, exactly. It probably is in the scene where he's bringing the onions to Storm's End, I guess, in retrospect. It is one of the most disgusting things I've ever heard of in my life. Like, just biting a raw onion. So if you're into that, comment down below so I can kick you out of the Konrad Club, because we don't eat raw.
How do you kick someone out of the Konrad Club? You just force them to watch the whole show.
Yeah. So you aren't allowed to comment until you've watched the whole of the OA, all right? Then come back.
That's like in Seinfeld as well. George, when he loses his glasses, takes a bite out of an onion thinking it's an apple. Also, Anthony's, he might have the cocktail sausages. We've got Toast Hawaii. Come on in.
Yeah, that is true.
The Toast Hawaii is fine. So that'll be great. All right, so, Konrad, you ready to get into it?
Let's do it.
Let's do it with a mouthful of coffee.
Oh, let's break it down!
All right, so the first episode of the OA opens with a mobile phone, and this is something that wasn't done in our previous show, so already different off the bat, is a mobile phone shot video of a blonde woman jumping off a bridge.
Yes.
What do you think about this as an opening for a TV show?
I mean, it's certainly dynamic and eye-catching. My read of the scene is that she doesn't appear to be in the kind of distress that one would expect of someone who is trying to kill themselves. Or, well, I'll alter that slightly to say I have a theory. I think she is trying to kill herself. Having started this off by saying, like, we're not going to go crazy with the theories. We are now about 30 seconds into the podcast proper, and I've already got one. I think she is trying to kill herself, but I don't think death means to her what we think it means. So she doesn't look to me like she has the despair of someone who is trying to end her life. When she does it. She looks almost more wistful, but it's definitely a dynamic and eye-catching way to open an episode of television.
Yeah, definitely. It also, to me, immediately sets her apart from the rest of the world. She's someone who they're filming with the video camera. Yeah. It's like all of us, we are the sort of watchers of her, you know what I mean? Sets her out as an individual straight away for me as well. Okay, so she wakes up in a hospital having been out for 3 days, apparently. Yeah. She doesn't like touching.
No,
she's got scars on her back. And she also says, I'm the OA.
Yeah.
So there's 3 little bits of information that are given to us in this scene. What do you think about those bits of information?
Well, I'm sure the scars are nothing. We can just scratch that off, get rid of those. I'm sure they just totally disregard those. They're not important. The touching, the touching seems like I don't really know where I'm going to land on the touching thing. Like, again, this is the first time we're being introduced to this character, so it's obviously like this is them like kind of front loading the characterization of Prairie / the OA here, and they're not going to say stuff, or I presume they're not going to say stuff unless it's important. So seemingly all of these things are significant. The touching, I'm not sure about. And the name, I have some thoughts on what OA stands for. It's not that serious, to be honest. But I think you said that someone might have asked a question on that.
Someone's asked a question about what it means, so we'll leave that till the questions section. So wait for that, guys. He's already got a thought. Now, we'll also, he's not going to commit that to the theory matrix just yet. And if he does, it'll be in pencil. So,
I like that. I have some kind of loose theories about this, but to be honest, I'll say this now, like coming out of this episode, the theories I have, they're like so broad that I don't even think they'd be particularly entertaining, because I can't really make any more. This before the final 15 minutes of this episode, the show plays its cards pretty close to its chest, so it's kind of hard for me to come up with any really concrete theories.
Yeah, and like, to be honest with you, like that's most shows would be like that. You need a hint of mystery.
Yeah.
To get to you can't answer. There's not going to be any questions answered in this episode. Let's be honest. That would be a weird show. All right. Okay. So, people who claim to be her parents, the woman we find out is called Prairie, call her Prairie, call her the OA. I don't know whichever way we fall on that. Basically, Prairie is in the hospital, and her parents go and see her, and we find out that, so when she first walks in there, she says, "Who are these people?" And we find out that although they are her parents, she has never seen them before because she was blind before she went missing.
Yeah, and there's a nice. Well, first off, hey, it's Herschel from The Walking Dead. That was my first thought. And then
Abel, the dad, is that
yeah,
Herschel from The Walking Dead?
He's Herschel. He's probably in other stuff as well. And I've just disrespected an elder statesman of the acting profession by being like, "Hey, you were in that TV series."
Well, I've never seen The Walking Dead, but I was recommended to watch it while I'm on my exercise bike because obviously I'll probably be riding away from zombies. But
yeah,
so maybe that'll be good motivation.
It's not that good. Every like they do the genius thing, which hopefully the OA won't do, where like every series, the first episode is really good and the last episode is really good, and everything in the middle is just filler. And that's enough to somehow carry them through to 1,400 seasons or whatever The Walking Dead is on now.
Well, aren't they on to spin-offs now as well?
Probably, yeah. And I doubt they're any better, to be honest. Sorry to the Walking Dead fans out there, but I'm not one of you. But yeah, so Herschel shows up, and there's a lovely moment between the OA and her mother, whose name is Nancy. Yes.
Abel and Nancy.
Abe and Nance, where she sees her, doesn't recognize her, and then she feels her face and recollects, presumably having done this 7 years ago or longer ago than that, and recognizes her that way, which is quite touching, I thought.
Yeah, that was nice. And there's a few moments like that as well when we get into the house. I just want to say, this popped into my head, probably shouldn't say it, filthy mind of mine. For some reason, when I was watching this episode and they said our daughter is Prairie or whatever, right? Whenever I heard the name Prairie, I haven't watched the OA for a while now. I've seen the whole thing a couple of times, but I haven't watched the whole thing for a while. But the name Prairie just threw into my mind again. Have you seen the film Rat Race with John Lovitz?
Oh, a long time ago, but yes.
Right. There's a moment where he's driving around down the highway, and his daughter needs to go to the toilet, and he's like, "We'll stop at the next gas station or whatever," and she goes, "But Dad, I'm prairie dogging."
Oh. That's disgusting. I don't remember that bit, but yes,
that is disgusting, and that's what jumped into my mind when I heard her name was Prairie. When I heard the name Prairie again, I don't know why.
New listeners to the After Dark podcast will be pleased to know that there is some class on this podcast, because my first thought during this bit was that I was reminded of our discussions about Room from last week.
Oh yeah, I know I had that as well.
Yeah, so you've already said what you thought about, so we've laid our stall out here.
Yeah, you thought about like a Academy-worthy, critically acclaimed film, whereas I thought of a little girl trying not to go to the toilet in a car.
Yeah, exactly. So different strokes for different folks here on the After Dark podcast, and none of them are wrong. But yeah, yeah, exactly. But no, I definitely got Room vibes with like the press surrounding the car as they're like driving home, yeah, I sensed a visual metaphor with her coming in with the sheet over her as she's walking into the house. Obviously, there's like practical reasons for that as well,
like
but
a
I think
veil.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's similar to what you were saying with her being kind of shot voyeuristically through the telephone in the first scene. Mm-hmm. Like there's this kind of reinforced theme of the OA being viewed with a degree of separation from the world around her.
Yeah, I would agree with that wholeheartedly. She also does. You talked about the mother feeling the face, and that's how she got it. She also puts her toes into the carpet, and that's how she knows she's home.
Yeah, it reminded me of Die Hard, actually, that bit. Like, where the guy in the plane in Die Hard tells him to take his shoes off and make his toes into fists on the carpet, and then you get a real close-up of the OA's really fucked up feet, which...
Yeah, because she hit the water with her feet.
Yeah, I'm surprised she can even walk, to be honest. Like, if you fell what is presumably, 100 feet or something, and landed feet first, I would have thought your legs would be broken, but I guess not.
Well, yeah, exactly. So obviously they're really badly bruised up, and she was resting for 3 days at this point.
I guess we don't know how high the bridge was.
Yeah, we don't know. Yeah, like, it was literally 3 feet high.
Yeah, she just really
head first. Yeah. Yeah, she bruises like a peach, Al Prairie. That's what she does.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's see. So this crowd outside the home, as you say. It's very similar to Room. There was a few things that actually were very similar to Room. Also, the theme within this episode of the parents being advised by doctors to treat her a certain way.
Yeah.
And the way they view her dealing with it is very like Room as well. And I think that'll come back time and time again as we sort of venture into that. And there are certain questions that pop up around that, like sort of her mental state and everything like that as well. Which obviously,
and we get in the following scene, we get a theme from Room where the authorities don't really treat her. I guess I wouldn't say they don't treat her with the sensitivity. Actually, no, I will say that because one of those police officers is just a straight up dick. They don't treat her with the sensitivity her situation requires, but they also just don't grasp the gravity of, or not even the gravity, just the meaning of what she is saying. I think, and that's that's something that's very similar to Room as well.
Yeah, so she's been interviewed by the police. She says that she's been gone for 7 years, 3 months, 11 days, which is a long time.
Yeah.
She walked. So when she first escaped or whatever happened to her, she walked for days. An old woman picked her up, took her to a place where she said there was lots of people, and then she said that she wanted to leave there, and then she tried to get back. The police officer then questions her and says, "Or back home, or back to the people, well, back to the place you were kept captive." And that was very much alluded to that, yes, she was trying to get back to the place she was kept captive.
Yeah, and there's this recurring idea of her trying to get back somewhere that is expanded upon as the episode goes on, and it's very vague at this point. But I think by the end of it, by the end of this episode, I had what I think is a fairly solid idea of what she's talking about. Though we shall see when we get there.
Okay. Yeah, and also, like she did say, we had died more times than I can count. I think that's probably going to come into something you're thinking about.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So we then get a little bit more from sort of fleshing out maybe a little bit of where she was, I suppose, because she starts talking to the camera and looking for Homer. She's talking about this guy called Homer. Yeah. She's looking for him. She goes onto Google and she sort of goes into her computer. Did you notice that there was like the audio prompts because she's blind on the computer?
Yes, yeah, that was a nice touch. And there's quite a lot of nice touches in this scene actually. So the fact that they still have a video camera and they still have quite an old Mac, to me sort of, and I believe this is set in more or less present day for when this was made, but to me implies that the parents haven't really moved on or developed at all since she went missing. This Mac is about a decade old at this point. And I found it very funny that she just searches into Google for Homer, that's not going to get you anywhere. OA, you're going to have to work a little bit harder than that, I'm afraid.
She must have seen The Simpsons growing up.
Yeah, come on. I don't care where you were. The Simpsons was on television. You can't miss it.
Yeah.
And, but yeah, I mean, the Homer is. We'll find out by the end of this episode who Homer is. The repetition of that name and the implication of the relationship between the OA and Homer is repeated often throughout this episode, and I don't think it's by coincidence that this character is named after the author of the Iliad and the Odyssey, a story about a character who goes missing for 10 years trying to find their way home. I don't know. Maybe there's nothing there. I feel like that name is quite purposefully chosen, to be honest. I like the one other thing I'll say about this scene as well. The use of the video camera to record her messages to Homer makes me. I guess like by the end of this episode, we kind of know what she's doing with them, but seeing the video camera, like seeing this old video camera at this point, made me think like, how is she communicating this to Homer? Like, is she posting these videos to him or something?
The way I read this, like the first time I watched it, and I was reminded of that watching it again, was I just felt like it was like her diary. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
She's sort of like treating Homer as a place to put her thoughts. Or maybe she's recording them thinking that she'll somehow get them online for later on. We later on we'll talk about it, but we only showed her uploading one video. So I would assume that we I don't know. What's going on here? What's going on?
It's slightly damning for someone who is attempting to make a serious go at uploading videos to YouTube that my mind didn't go to uploading videos to YouTube. It's like, what's like? I was like, was she going to post them? What's happening here? Can he somehow like read the digital signal mentally, like telepathically, like on the? I don't know what's going on.
Yeah. YouTube. You just forgot YouTube existed there for a minute.
Yeah. I just completely went out of my head. What's the streaming set? Actually, well, I think I may have said this.
You can't just upload things to Netflix. What's he doing?
I may have said this on this podcast at some point in the past, but it bears repeating. I'm old enough to remember when YouTube kind of came up, and there was a competing video site which I don't believe exists anymore called thatvideosite.com, and I remember swearing blind to several of my friends that thatvideosite.com was going to be the one to win in the sort of video on demand wars, and here we are. A mere 16 years later, and it's probably not hosted anymore. I don't know what happened to that website, but so that's why my mind doesn't immediately go to YouTube when
maybe if it's still going, we should upload this to there as well.
Oh yeah, we'd make millions.
We'll bring it back. All right. Also, that scene ends with she finds like a box cutting knife, like a Stanley knife.
Yeah.
And she opens it up, and we've already seen at the start where she tried to kill herself. And the mom comes and interrupts with a little bit of a musical stinger as well while she does that.
Yes.
Just so, what do you think? Do you think if the mom didn't come in there, she would have just tried to do it, or what do you think?
I think so. Yeah. I think this is a character. Well, I mean, she said she's died over and over again.
Yeah.
I don't think that death. I think there is such a thing as death in this world, but I think that getting close to it is what she's trying to achieve here, and I think she would have tried to do it had her mother not intervened.
Okay, cool. Right, okay, so we then get introduced. Her mom and her go out for a walk in an abandoned or an unfinished housing development, and we get introduced a fair bit away from him at this point, but we get introduced to Steve Winchell, and he is doing backflips on top of an abandoned house.
Yeah, and this will come back to bite me, but I have to be honest for the listeners, for the sake of transparency. The first thing I wrote here was Steve seems pretty cool. Filming an episode of Jackass on top of a roof. Like,
yeah. I will say about Steve, I got the impression of him like he's like one of those kids, who just like runs and jumps over a tiny ledge and goes parkour.
Yeah, but there is strong douchebag parkour guy energy to Steve, I will say.
Yeah, and I think this might actually be where we hear Prairie's last name for the first time.
Yeah, Prairie Stevens, I think they might say her surname is. I can't remember, but yeah,
Johnson.
Oh, Johnson. Okay.
Yeah, you didn't go generic enough.
Yeah. This is when I'm exposed that I just wasn't paying attention, just guessed. Like, listen.
Yeah, Stevens.
Yeah,
it's like the guy's name's Stevens. Okay, so from there, we're thrust directly into a scene which I had to divert my son's eyes for.
Oh, Hachi Machi.
This is a
very explicit
bit of sex with Steve. Let's say might not be the last time we get a segment of sex with Steve.
No.
Yeah. So
yeah, very very explicit. I was like, at first it was just like, okay, it's just a sex scene. I know I've been around the block a few times. I know how these things go, and then it just keeps on going. And I was like, oh wow, okay, fine. This is the kind of show we're dealing with.
Yeah, it is. This is. I've actually tricked you into watching a softcore porn show.
Oh, finally, the After Dark podcast arrives in my genre wheelhouse.
The After Dark podcast. After Dark.
Yeah, After Dark podcast : Nights.
Yeah.
Saxophone.
All right, okay. So basically, what I thought was great about this, when they finished, Steve goes straight into trying to impress her with his stunt videos.
Oh my god,
the stunt videos!
But she literally she says a line that is like something out of fucking Napoleon Dynamite here. She literally says the phrase, "You have skills." in regards to his Jackass videos.
You got skills.
I was like, what are you talking about? Like, he's doing handstands on a roof. Like, he's not going to get a job doing this. Have some higher standards. Is it Jay, this character's name?
Yeah, I think so.
It was so funny. I was laughing
skills.
at. You got some sweet skills.
Let me just say as well, he's doing all those. This is how you know Steve's heart's truly in those Jackass style videos, because he's doing them, flips on the roof, risking his life, and he didn't even like really use those to get with this girl. He didn't ask her what she thought until after they'd already had sex.
No, Steve's mind seems to operate on a very kind of here and now basis. Like, he's done with sex, time to go back to my stunt videos. He can't think about two things at once, or he'll shut down. As evidenced by the fact that they appear to be having sex in front of an open ground floor window, which like when the camera kind of pulls back from it, it's like, oh, and they're out, the characters are out of the way because they're done having sex. It's just like, wow, that seems like it's the ground floor, and you're just right there.
I would assume it's not the ground floor due to it being a two-story house. Not many two-story houses have bedrooms on the ground floor. But
that is true. I've been in a couple, but I'm not going to criticize the show for this, but it did make me laugh that at the end of this scene, we get like the first of a few tropes in this show where we are made to realize that, of course, the overly macho character has confidence issues, self-confidence issues, and an unhappy home life. Who could have possibly predicted that this character would have that?
Yeah, this Steve is a physical manifestation of teenage angst.
Yeah, very much so.
Like we get him. Well, actually, he's told that he has a really nice body and he smells good. Which is good to hear. You know, any young boy would love to hear that.
It's always great to get a compliment.
It's the rest of him that's the problem.
Yeah, it's just like the whole kind of id and the personality part.
His whole being, his whole being
soul.
is just it's not.
You've got a bad soul, Steve. Is what you have.
Yeah. He's got a nice body, smells good. Although he's good at punching walls. And I love
not according to his dad, he isn't.
No, I love how his dad comes in and just goes like his first thing his dad says already shows the disconnect between like what his dad feels about his son and his property. You know, why is there a hole in my wall?
Yeah, they don't appear to have a good relationship, these two.
How do you think, like, Konrad, as a man who grew up in a house where the fridge in your house was very much your mum's fridge, not your fridge, how does that make you feel? Is that realistic, you think?
I'm trying to think. When I was like 16, I put a few holes in walls with like PS4, or wouldn't have been PS4, it would have been like PS2 controllers when I got pissed off playing like Pro Evolution Soccer. So that's to be honest, this is probably a conversation that my dad had with me at various points, but I don't think they were ever quite as blunt about it, and my parents I don't think would have. I think my parents would have been a lot more awkward if I had a girl in my room than just like walking in. I can't actually remember where Jay goes. Does she climb out the window or something, or does she just walk out?
I don't think she goes out the window. No.
Is she just still in the room while his dad's complaining about the hole in the wall?
No, she's gone by then.
Okay, yeah.
I don't think she sneaks out. I think she just goes.
Yeah, but yeah, I think my parents would have complained about this kind of more passive aggressively than Steve's dad.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you. You said about you putting holes in the wall with PlayStation controls. There was one time when I used to still lived in Australia. In Australia, houses are timber frame with brick on the outside. A lot of them, anyway. Some of them are just pure timber, but we had timber frames. So therefore, the walls, like the stud walls inside, are properly just plasterboard. And whereas over in Ireland, anyway, a lot of the walls are proper concrete walls, just to keep the heat in. But not all the time. Newer houses, though. But anyway, so. Me and my brother were wrestling on the top of the stairs, like at the landing. Very dangerous, very precarious. We were sort of Steves, you know. We were living on the edge. Didn't have a video camera out. Weren't doing it for anyone else. We were just doing it for fun. But basically, we were wrestling, and I had him in a headlock or whatever. And then he went to punch me in the stomach, and I dodged it by like sort of throwing my body backwards, and my ass went right through the wall. And I just remember being like, "Oh my god!" And my like ass was in the wall, and I like just like slowly brought it out, and then just looked around, and there's just like an arse-shaped hole in the wall. So
That's great.
Went down and told my dad, and then I remember he patched it up and replastered it. But then because like it was upstairs in the hallway, and there was like 5 different bedrooms or something in our house in Australia up the top, so the hallway was really long around, and like sort of there was so much painting to be done. So my dad just replastered the wall and then painted that wall a different color. It was a feature wall. It was a feature wall.
Yeah, it gives it some personality.
Exactly. Yeah, but that was my best.
That's so funny. That's a great way to put a hole in a wall. I once me and my friends like realized we weren't going to get. This is an awful story. Actually, I probably shouldn't admit to this on air because it's probably slightly illegal. But we realized we weren't going to get our deposit back for our university flat, so we ended up like kicking a hole in one of the walls.
Oh my god!
Which was very satisfying, but it was like the bit, I haven't seen it in a long time. You know the bit
very
in Pinocchio.
Satisfying.
you know the bit in Pinocchio where they like come to the house and it's full of like young teenage boys who are just wrecking the fucking house. Like that's what it felt. It was like Lord of the Flies. Just like the animal instinct took over and.
I have to say, any of our listeners who are sort of still university age or younger, do not do that.
No, do not kick a hole in your wall, because I did end up having to pay for it, and it was very expensive. So, like, it's not. I do as I say, not as I do, or don't do anything that I say. To be honest, just
so you learnt your lesson very quickly there.
Yes.
Anyway, back to the OA. So we that's what we're here for. So just before we end this Sex with Steve segment, his dad mentions the word bully. So, surprise, surprise, this ball of angst who's punching walls is also bullying people at school, apparently.
Yeah, who could have predicted that? A young Biff Tamlin.
Okay, so Prairie is speaking using the diary, as we said.
Yeah.
We also find out that her internet use has to be monitored.
Yes.
Makes sense to me.
I don't like. It's odd to me. Maybe this is standard practice, and I'm just ignorant of it. But the level of police involvement with her after this, and the level of monitoring that the hospital want to do of her, seems at odds with what actually happened. She tried to kill, or from the outside looking in, she's tried to kill herself. So obviously there does need to be some monitoring there. The idea of really, really carefully regulating internet use and the FBI getting involved seems odd to me, as if maybe.
No, well, she's been a prisoner.
I guess she has been missed.
She's been
for
missing
7 years. That's right.
And I think the FBI are probably involved because they want her to start speaking about where she was.
Yeah, I guess that's true. I hadn't sort of put 2 and 2 together on that one.
Yeah. Okay. So so then she goes out for a little escapade into the housing development, which is unfinished.
Yeah. The search for Wi-Fi.
Yeah. Where am I going to go for a search for Wi-Fi? This abandoned house.
Yeah, I know. This abandoned house. That looks like there's going to be a router in there, which, to be fair, as it turns out.
Yeah, she was right to do so.
Yeah.
So she goes into the house. Timber frame inside, very, very sparse. There's a few fellas in there.
Yeah.
She goes upstairs. It seems like Steve's a bit of a drug dealer as well.
Yeah, I think this episode will go down as the Ballad of Steve, because in the 5th scene where you first see him doing a hands down the roof, I wrote down Steve seems cool, and then here, not 3 scenes later, my first note is Steve seems less cool now.
Yeah, selling drugs. He's got a big dog.
Yeah, some Bernard, I think. No, it's not some Bernard. It's a Rottweiler.
Yeah. So he literally orders it to attack.
Yeah, that was so funny. It was like, attack! What are you doing? Why are you training your domestic dog to attack? Like, to respond to that word?
You can't. No one can catch him selling paracetamol. That's the thing.
He's like the drug dealer. Have you ever watched the Trailer Park Boys?
Yeah.
He's like the drug dealer. I can't remember what his name is. It begins with a J. But he's like the drug dealer out of Trailer Park Boys. Just like this absolute low-level dumbass of a drug dealer.
Yeah. So he's basically he sends it to attack. Prairie bites it herself.
Yeah, she's like a magical animal handler. She absolutely subdues it.
I really thought she was going to pull out the Crocodile Dundee fingers.
Yeah. Well, she might have done it. We might have just not seen.
Yeah. She did whisper something in its ear after as well.
Yeah, she soothed it like Aragorn sorting out that horse in Two Towers.
Yeah, exactly. Also, is this the first time whenever they say, so Steve goes, "You're Prairie Johnson," or I think maybe Jesse said, "You're Prairie Johnson." Anyway, yeah, it was Jesse. She says, "I'm the OA." Is this the first time we hear her say that, or have we heard this previously?
No, she says it in the first scene with the nurse. She says, "I'm
Oh,
the
of
OA."
course, yes. We already talked about that. Yeah,
but
she says, "I'm
yeah.
the OA." We've got a full of comedy. I'm the OA coming up. Let me just tell you, there's one that made me laugh out loud.
Yeah.
Right. So, anything else to say about that sort of Rottweiler scene?
Just that she ends up with a sweet tank top at the end of it and makes an absolute fool out of Steve, which I was very much there for.
Yeah. Steve is quickly going down in estimations after his heroic start. Okay, so she's in the bath now. We find out that her mum has watched the videos on the camera. Now, maybe while she was out of the house, the mum, like for the walk to go and see Steve about a rooter, maybe the mum saw the video there. I thought there was an interesting little line here, which maybe sparked your ears up, Konrad. The mum said, "Are you hearing voices again?"
Yeah, so there does seem to be an implication here that there is some depression or potentially like suicidal thoughts in her past that weren't related to where she kind of seems to be now mentally, which is a far more kind of like pragmatic approach to getting back to where she's been, potentially through some kind of near-death experience, which we'll go into a bit more probably towards the end of the episode. So I wonder if they are going to kind of deal with those emotions and themes while also investigating the kind of weird, I guess, like existential sci-fi stuff that appears to be the direction we're heading in here. That would be an interesting thing for them to do.
Okay, cool. She also says, quite realistically, in my opinion, it also maybe shows that she is a bit more grounded than everyone around her thinks she is. She says, "It would hurt me to hurt you," in terms of talking to her mum. Just give me some time. Very, very responsible thing to say. It made me think, actually, maybe she doesn't have the screws loose that they all think she does.
No, I mean, she doesn't. I don't think she's portrayed as someone who is mentally unstable at all. And I think that's part of why this episode works, I think, because she's talking a lot of nonsense, but because her characterization is such that she seems rational and stable, it convinces you as a viewer that what she's saying is the truth, and that she should be listened to. There was also, just before we go off this scene, there was one. This is a really dumb. So if people are joining us for the OA, like sometimes I get infatuated with little kind of elements of the visual design of a shot or a scene. There was an absolutely phenomenal bit of blocking in this scene where she's sitting up and her mother's sitting kind of across from her on the edge of the bath talking to her, and then she slides back into the bath, and she's moving and the camera is moving with her, and the blocking of her mother is such that her leg still blocks her breasts from being exposed, so she's still like, not seen to be naked, which I was like, that is great blocking to nail that in a shot while you're moving a camera and the actress is moving at the same time.
Eagle-eyed Konrad was looking for mistakes there, let me say.
Oh yeah, I was leaning forward like, I wasn't. I apologize for that, for that, Jay. But I was very impressed by the blocking in that scene.
Yeah. Okay, so well, that's something that I was going to say. This show is a very sort of the style they've gone for in this first episode, and it does carry through most of this first season as well. It's very sort of independent film, patient, sort of get into a character. Even like the score is very subtle. Until the end, when we'll talk about where it swells up a lot when she sort of goes into the tale. But it's very much, let the story, let the dialogue speak for itself, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, it's quite understated in the way it's presented.
Yeah.
It has we've gone past it now, but that second scene where the OA is recording a video to Homer, and it's this kind of like soft-hued, pink-coloured close-up of her recording underneath the sheets, which is very, very reminiscent of a lot of like indie romantic dramas. It's a shot that's been done a lot, which is not a criticism of it, but I feel like that is kind of the tone that they are trying to strike, like this almost sort of slightly whimsical, kind of nostalgic tone. So I'll be really interested to see where they go with that, or if they re-employ it later in the show. Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Then, wouldn't you know, this ball of angst that is Steve, He's this muscle-bound freak who just sits in his room all day and just does weights.
Yeah.
He's a lover of music. He loves music.
He loves music now that he knows that the girl who won't date him is in chorus.
Yeah, exactly. There was a real like American Pie moment here, like shoop shooby doo doo wop, yeah, magic. You know.
He makes an enemy of the lacrosse playing member of his gang by the looks of things as well, which I was very like, oh, don't fuck with lacrosse players. I went to college with a lot of them.
Oh, did you?
Yeah. Yeah, when
lacrosse?
I was in boarding school, we had like several lacrosse teams, and yeah, they were that is a particularly like I don't know if they were boys lacrosse teams, but there were definitely a lot of girls lacrosse teams, and they were always vicious as hell. I used to watch them play, and it'd be like, this is essentially a blood sport, is what lacrosse is.
Yeah, well, you know, we've got American Pie Choir, we've got the lacrosse. This is basically a bit of American Pie, pie going on here. But anyway, it's like Steve's so desperate for a friend that this new kid comes in, hears him sing, and he goes straight over to him and goes, "Hey, I can be your friend." And he's like, "Yeah, but the thing is, you're a homophobe."
Yeah, which is a reasonable criticism, to be honest.
Yeah. He's only been there
rather than be introspective and be like, "Oh, maybe I should change, who I am as a person." He just punches him in the throat instead.
Yeah, exactly. So Steve actually treats people who accuse him of being a bigot or a homophobe, he treats them the same way as he treats him in his bedroom wall. Just throws his fist through him.
Yeah, there's not a problem that Steve's met that he can't solve by hitting it really hard.
Yeah. I think like we're safe to say at this point, we've got enough evidence under our belt. Steve's got some issues.
Yeah, this is chapter 3 in the Ballad of Steve saga here, where I've got in my notes Steve. So we've gone from Steve seems cool to Steve seems less cool to Steve seems like he sucks.
Yeah. So
he's
Steve
on the downward trend now.
He's on a downward trend. I mean, like his parents think the best thing to do is to send him away to a military school.
Yeah.
I don't know. That seems to be. Just talk to him. Just talk to your son. Maybe pretend like the wall. You don't have to admit it. You don't have to really believe it, but pretend the walls in his room are his. Maybe that he has some part of. He's part of the family. He owns something ownership in the world. Yeah, he's got ownership. Maybe make him feel like he has a place in the world. And anyway, we'll not get into that. We'll talk about that later on when it comes to the parent-teacher meeting. Do you want a sweet memento to remind you of all those good times you've had listening to the After Dark podcast? Well, how about pick up a t-shirt with the brand new design by my wife, Ema. It depicts Konrad and I going into the cave. What will we get up to next? Link in the description. So basically, we now go to the point where Steve thinks, you know what, this new OA Prairie, I've got something, I've got a wee quid pro quo for her. And he goes and says, right, okay, here's your internet. I need your help. And they sort of they scheme, and he sort of, first of all, they go shopping. They go shopping, and do this little thing. Prairie was talking about how sort of he is what she imagines Homer was as a young man that age, and that sort of, and then there's like sort of a little moment while they're shopping where she looks through while getting changed and sort of smiles at him. She's sort of a bit she's almost like she's reminiscing of a relationship with this fella Homer while she's with him. Yeah. So they went shopping. What do you think?
I felt. So I'll lay my cards out here. Like, I enjoyed this first episode. I thought it was decent. This is the part of the episode that I really didn't like, and I felt like there was a scene missing between the previous scene and this one. I felt like there was a huge leap in Steve and the OA's relationship from I'm sicking my attack dog on you and you're running off having subdued it to I'm climbing in your window like Harvey and Sabrina for us to get up to some hijinks. I think there needs to be another scene in there where they find some kind of mutual understanding, or like the spark of a mutual respect or relationship between each other that gets them to this point. So I really felt like there was a big jump here, and it gave me a bit of kind of like narrative whiplash. Like, I was a bit like, oh, okay, fine, right, we're friends now, are we? Like, where's this come from? Mm-hmm. I was very into Steve referencing when he brings her the router, referencing Strangers on a Train. I did not have Steve pegged as a watcher of Hitchcock movies, to be honest. So
keep surprising you.
Yeah, he caught me off guard. So I'll give him that. That's a couple of points in Steve's favor. The invisible self stuff is interesting. That feels like it's probably going to be quite poignant in terms of where this show is going. This idea of the person that we don't present outwardly, but who actually is our core being. I'll be interested to see if that comes back, because obviously Steve is a character who represses a lot of feelings and just and they are replaced with anger essentially outwardly, because he can't be who he wants to be. I thought it was okay though. The shopping trip was kind of fun. I would have enjoyed it a lot. I think, like, taken as it's presented, it's fine, and I thought it was okay. I would have enjoyed it a lot more if there had been that establishing scene to convince me that these two were actually anywhere close to being friends, rather than just like the person who sicked his dog on her.
Yeah, but they're all. I agree with you. I think there probably needed to be something like that just for the viewers' experience. But like, they also both seem to be quite damaged, immature people. Who?
Yeah, I totally believe there's a potential for a relationship there. They needed to establish it a bit better, I thought.
Yeah.
But
Also,
I do buy it though.
When I first watched this, my head was like, well, Steve seems pretty stupid. Is he as stupid as a dog? Did she just wrangle him like she wrangled the dog?
Yeah, that's true. Maybe in a scene off camera, she just bit him like she bit the dog. And like, no, stop it, and like kind of pushed his head down into the ground, and then he accepted her as the dominant animal in the pack, so to speak.
Yeah. Also, there's also the idea of, like, they're both like going down on the bike to the shopping center, both thinking we're both taking advantage of each other.
Yeah, there is that shot in particular was the bit I was like, it's a bit of a jump for them to go from "I'm sicking my dog on you" to we're going on a whimsical bike ride to the mall.
Giving him a dink.
Giving her a backy, yeah.
Giving her a dink.
Yeah, giving her a dink. Yeah, like where she's that's a reference to an older episode of the After Dark podcast. Yeah, like it's a goddamn, it's from E.T. or something. But yeah, but it was fun. It's always fun to have a little shopping montage.
Yeah, montage.
Well, it wasn't really
okay,
montage,
so she goes undercover. She's into the parent-teacher meeting. We get Phyllis from The Office jumping in.
Yeah, was it The Office? I was trying to place her, and I was like, oh, I think she was in Parks and Rec, but
no, she was in The Office.
Yeah, I think you're right.
So she was Phyllis. Phyllis in The Office. Her name's Phyllis Smith in real life, the actress. She plays Elizabeth or Betty Broderick Allen, and she will become known in the show as BB-8.
Okay.
And I think this show came out after The Force Awakens, so BB-8 is I think this show came out after, so BB-8 had it first. But anyway,
so they've stolen J.J. Abrams' adorable droid name for this character, who is very similar in many ways.
Much more adorable, in my opinion. So basically, Prairie, or the OA, goes on a huge this. See, as a teacher, this is my worst fear of a parent-teacher meeting.
I was going to... Right, so you're a teacher. My read of this was, if a parent came in and had the absolute nerve to be like, well, listen, yeah, my child may have punched a kid in the throat, but really, what's happening here is you've lost your love for the craft, and that's affecting my boy. My read of this was, if I was a teacher and a parent came and said that to me, my response would be, fuck off. Right? So as a teacher, what is your read of this?
Well, my read of this is, obviously I'm not going to get I'm not even going to mention things that I've experienced in the past, because it's just not my place. But I will say that these conversations of losing a spark for teaching, or who are you really trying to help as a teacher, and what was your purpose for getting into teaching, are good questions, and there are questions that teachers should always be thinking about, in terms of who you should focus your attention on, like who needs your help, who you're actually trying to help. Having said that, they're reflection points for a teacher to have throughout their career. They are not questions that should be posed in a meeting where a pupil is being reprimanded for physical harm on another pupil. Yeah, that is it's just a no-go. It shows no responsibility on behalf of the parent. It's not a parent in this regard. But if that was the case, as a teacher, I would be always thinking about those questions anyway. But I would be thinking to myself, no wonder this boy is punching, because there doesn't seem to be much responsibility being taken in this family.
Yeah, no, I think that's like, I didn't buy I don't think I bought the teacher's response to this to even be remotely interested in what the OA was saying here.
I think the difference is, Conrad, I don't feel like I've disconnected from teaching in that way. A teacher of this age who maybe feels like the wheels are spinning at this point, and like the wheels are spinning in their life, and they're just sort of on the ride now. Maybe she missed out on a few promotions and she thinks, you know what is my career now? I can completely see someone being so disaffected later in your career that maybe these questions would bring this out of her. I don't think that's unrealistic, but I think it would be a very special case to act that way to a parent.
I think it's what you were saying. Like, I think it's the setting that these questions are posed that doesn't seem believable to me. I think this is obviously like quite a tense setting. I don't buy that any teacher would listen to these points in this kind of setting, because as you said, it just smacks of this parent is not taking responsibility for their child's actions. But I think that aside, I found the dimensions falling apart stuff that the OA slips into, and in fact, I haven't got her name down, but the lead is fantastic.
Marling.
Britt Marling, yeah, that's it. Like, and also the writer as well, I believe.
It's her and a fella called Zal Batmanglitch.
Yeah.
Not a couple, although many people believe they are and want them to be, but they're not. But yeah, it's a bit like Dark in a way. Like they both write it, and he's the director, and she's a star actually. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So, but she is brilliant in this, and the way the dialogue slips between. There's this really interesting duality to her performance where she seems like she's trying to do the thing that Steve has told her to do, which is essentially get him off the hook for punching a kid in the throat.
Yeah.
But there's this awareness she appears to have of something that exists beyond what we see in front of us, beyond the mundane, that she slips into very naturally and then slips back out of. And it's this really kind of fascinating double speak. I guess double speak's not really the right phrase for it, because that implies it's slightly duplicitous. I don't think she's doing it dishonestly. She seems like she's exasperated and frustrated with the fact that Steve has what seems like a potential that she recognizes, or something bigger than himself that he could achieve if only the world around him wasn't as screwed up as it is, which is really interesting to watch. And I think I came back to that again and again through this episode, even though there are moments between characters that weren't really working for me. I think Britt Marling's performance as the OA kept me hooked on kind of the main through line of the episode.
Yeah, you're being hooked in by the main sort of mysteries in this main character, which is, to be honest with you, probably the thing that, if you're going to get hooked into something on the show, that's probably the best thing to be hooked in by.
Yeah.
Which is good. So I did like the reveal. He punched a kid in the throat.
Yeah. They just like reiterate that, like, he's not getting off that easy. He punched a kid in the throat, and it's so funny actually. The cut. I don't know if you had any more to say on this scene, but the
one more thing. Well, I was just going to say, like, I thought it was absolutely hilarious that they went to all this trouble of like concealing her identity. She's the stepmother. They've got new clothes and all, and then at the very end they just go, "Sorry, I didn't know. Catch, what's your first name?" "I'm the OA."
yeah. Just like Steve face palms like off in the distance, just say Samantha or something, like give a normal name. I found, given I didn't really buy the turnaround of the teacher in this scene, I found it really funny in the next scene where it's the teacher and Steve in the classroom, and she gives him a little wink and he gives a little smile, and it's like a John Hughes movie from the 80s. Like, everything's gonna be all right.
Yeah, every little thing.
Yeah, I don't think it is, to be honest.
Yeah, we'll wait and see. So she finds Homer on. We've talked about this a little bit. She finds Homer on the Google. Finds him. He had a near-death experience in a football match.
Yeah.
And she's wondering, where is he?
Yeah. So this again is a return to this idea of near-death experiences or something to do with death, allowing. Well, this is someone we know that she's had a relationship with, or that she very strongly believes she has had a relationship with, and yet he's this American football playing kid in college. So I believe they say he was in a coma for some length of time, which again just makes me think of this idea that these near-death experiences seem to coincide with these characters, I don't know, like kind of elevating beyond this plane of existence or something to some place where they can meet other people who exist in that plane. And that's kind of where my theory head was driving with this episode, and it was getting more and more kind of focused on that as the episode went on.
Okay, interesting. So Steve gets her on the phone by telling the mom, "It's the FBI."
Yeah, that's great. I love that her mum buys it as well.
Yeah. So she reiterates, "We need 5 people in the abandoned house, midnight. Leave doors open." Yeah, they need to be strong. Leave the doors open. You need to let her in.
Interesting. Yeah, interesting.
Okay, obviously we'll get into more of that later when it actually happens. But BBA meets Mrs. Winchell, we'll say, in the shopping centre.
Yeah.
I love that reveal that he didn't even have a stepmom. Like,
no.
It's not even like she was posing as as his stepmom when he already had. It's literally just his mom. Like,
yeah, like that lie was not going to last long at all. If like literally his parents are still together and they are in like they live in the same town, they shop in the same store as his teacher. Like, how long did Steve realistically think that lie was going to last?
I know. That's Steve for you. That's Steve for you. So I love the little sort of moment in the house where all the parents are talking to each other. Steve's sitting there like a little scolded boy, always on the stairs, and the mom, Steve's mom, goes, "What if this becomes sexual?"
Yeah, I think I really liked. Excuse me.
She knows her son. That's what we'll say.
Yeah, she does. I really liked the characterization of her mother. I feel like in a very short space of time, we got a really good sense of the kind of character she is. I felt quite negative about her, to be honest. She seems like someone who is at her wit's end with her son's behavior and is looking to blame someone else for that. Obviously, what the OA did isn't appropriate either, but Steve was the one who came up with the idea, in fairness. And I will say for Steve here, I didn't actually look up the name of the actor who plays him, but we get a really nice little moment from him here where he's talking about like, I just want someone on my side, which it started to bring me back round on his character. Not completely. A lot of the stuff he's done in this episode is pretty monstrous and he seems like a dickhead, but there are some redeeming qualities under the surface there.
Yeah, I will say, again, as a teacher, I will say the idea of Steve being like, I just want someone on my side for once. Yeah, that is realistic, I suppose, but it's also like, in real life, the pupil isn't really that good at diagnosing their own problem.
Yeah, that does seem like a script writer maybe writing that for the 17-year-old boy rather than something a 17-year-old boy would come up with.
Yeah, like they obviously, a lot of 17-year-old boys and girls have issues that they don't necessarily know why they have the issues.
Yeah,
they're just balls of angst, or even if they have real trauma in them as well.
Yeah,
then it's not really something they can come to the conclusion of themselves. All right, okay, so during this time, the OA runs upstairs, records a video of her eye where she's asking people to come.
Yeah, like
and,
get your framing sorted, OA. Come on.
I don't know. You got to be arty. You got to have that little touch of the quirkiness, you know. But she's holding it up on her eye, and she says, come to this place at this time. She mentions something of note where she says something about being on the edge of something. I can't remember the exact wording, but it's like if you're trying to transition from one thing to another. She mentions something around that. I don't know if there's much to unpack there at the minute, but
I vaguely remember the line. I didn't actually write it down. I vaguely remember the line you're talking about, though. But again, is this just idea of transcending beyond what you can see, beyond the mundane that they keep coming back to? I think.
The reason why I wanted to mention that line is because the idea of like transitioning from one plane to another, or whatever she was saying, something in that sort of conjured that image anyway. Then we get a character called Buck, who is leaving his house. And we have Buck's dad call him Michelle. And when the OA said on the camera, when you're on one thing and you're trying to transition to another, I thought to myself, right, okay, so that's obviously this character's very clear transition that they're going through. And it made me start thinking, well, what are the transitions of the rest of these characters? What are they going to be going through?
I didn't catch that actually. That character's dad, they're calling them by a different name. But that is interesting. Then that does totally pose that question. You know, how the rest of these characters kind of fit, either physically or emotionally transitioning to something else.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll learn more about all these characters going forward, obviously. Now, we get the boys. I say the boys because the boys and BBA will become to be known as the boys. You know what I mean? So whenever the OA finally gets her crew together, it's Steve, Buck, a character called French, and then a character called Jesse.
Is Jesse the lacrosse player? I bet Jesse's the lacrosse player.
Jesse's the one with sort of hair past the ears.
Oh, okay, fine. So
that's French, the lacrosse player, is it?
Yeah, I guess French must be that. I would not have called that. Like Jesse to me sounds like a kind of jock lacrosse player name, but fool me for judging these characters.
Yeah, exactly. You're judging them far too hard here.
Yeah,
French is a nickname though. I would say. So if it was actually, it's Alfonso Souza is his real name.
Oh, okay.
Which sounds much more like an athlete's name, but. Basically, and then obviously BBA, Mrs. Broderick Allen, she comes in late. She saves the day, and she just comes in. I love when she comes in. She goes, "I love this actress, like the way she delivers every line." You know, what I mean?
She's very, very funny.
I left my door open. You know?
Also, the notion, just to mention this now, the notion of having to invite her in, it seems to me like it's implying that she's a vampire. I'm just gonna say that. I'm gonna put that out here now.
Well, you never know.
Fans of the show will know that I like my horror movies, and I've seen enough vampire movies to know a vampire when I see one, folks.
I'm smelling a lovely Konrad theory here.
The OA stands for the original... Fuck, I can't think of...
Hold that for the question. Think of a word for vampire. Yeah.
Fuck.
Starting with A.
You got to actually for me for the next half hour.
If you look at the actual... the way that they do the title on the poster, they don't put the cross in the A. It's an upside down V.
Oh, okay. That's interesting.
Original vampire.
Shit. We've done it. Cracked. Already. Crack the code.
Okay. All right. So she sits them all down, has some candles going, and she starts telling them a story. The story is that she was born in Russia in 1987, and as she starts telling this story, the orchestral music goes up. It's a choral piece of music. There's a load of drumming, strings. It really comes to life, the score at this moment.
Yeah, well, I mean, the episode does, and like, to be honest, like, this is really... I was kind of flagging a bit by this point in the episode. I was like, all right, I need something to happen here, and to their credit, like, something did happen. The episode really kicks into another gear here.
Yeah, exactly. So at 57 minutes and 22 seconds, we get Netflix presents.
Yeah. Love a late title card. And
yeah, like I felt like that this whole first season is kind of like a really long film. Yeah. And like proportionally in the season, this is where the title would be in a film. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, very much so. And it has that feeling of like, right, prologue's done. Here we go. This is like we've kind of got our characters in the present day established. Now we're going into a flashback.
Yep. Okay, so we'll just cover this flashback quite quickly then and see what your thoughts are on it. So basically, her mother died in childbirth. Her mother looked exactly like her, it seems, by the painting. She had nightmares, from a young age. She was not born blind.
Nope.
To cure her nightmares, the Russian Leonardo DiCaprio put her in the ice. Yes. Father of the Year award for him. The only way we fight it worked a treat. It worked a treat. Let's be honest to him. The only way to fight the cold is to become colder than it is, which is a very, very film/TV view of Russians. Is all I'll say.
Yes, I think that's fair enough.
So, what did you think of this setup of her father and like sort of the wealthy, the new money, all that sort of stuff?
I'm going to make one small point before we go into this. Apparently, Brad Pitt produced this, which I don't know if it was the Brad Pitt, but I was just a bit like, that's interesting.
It was Bradley Pittles himself.
Yeah, very good. Yeah, I mean, if we're dealing with vivid dreams and like kind of Russian post-fall of communism oligarchs in the 90s, there's going to be some weird shit afoot, and as if on like schedule we get some weird stuff. So it seems like there's a bunch of weird stuff in this, to be honest. So he does the thing in the ice, which seems like
child abuse.
Well, it does seem like child abuse, but it also seems like training based on what happens later. Like he as if he knew. Well, as if this child is having a premonition of something that is going to happen, and he takes that premonition and interprets it as, right, I need to prepare my child for this situation, which, as it turns out, seems to have been the right choice based on what happens. There is also, I don't want to race too far ahead, but there is a scene where they're drinking what looks like quail's eggs together, and they drink an absolute shitload of them. Like they must have about 30 quail's eggs each. It's like,
I know. I think there's milk. I think they're making like a raw eggnog.
I do not know what that was, but I was like, that is too many eggs that you're drinking there.
She even mentioned when she was on the bus, she mentioned something about the eggs weren't sitting well in her stomach.
Yeah, I'm not surprised.
No fucking doubt.
Yeah. You're not supposed to drink 30 of them in a go. And it's just, I looked at that and I was like, is this like supposed to be a comedy? Like, what is that? What are you drinking there? But yeah, so that, like, what her dad is doing very much struck me as preparing her for what is to come, on reflection for what happens, I think. And I don't know what to make of that milkshake scene. It was just a weird scene.
Yeah, like I had to look at his homemade eggnog, where they didn't even whisk them up. Like,
no, they just crack an egg in, pour some brandy in, a little bit of milk, off we go.
Yeah, exactly. It was a bit strange. Let's be honest. So obviously, then eventually the bus crashes. She crashes. She goes, sort of swims out of the bus into this big light.
Yeah, it's a beautiful shot of like her escaping the bus in this really wide shot, swimming towards the light. Really, really, really beautiful shot.
Yep, and then basically what happens is she goes into this weird light room, room, space, whatever you want to call it, and there is a woman who's speaking Arabic, interestingly, talking to her, and she can understand what she's saying. And basically she asks her if she wants to go back. The woman who's speaking Arabic says, I want you to stay here with me. But she says, no, I want to go back. So then to go back, the woman says, I have to take your sight because I cannot bear for you to see what lies ahead.
Yeah. So, I mean, this is like it seems very clear that it's supposed to be some kind of astral projection thing going on here. I mean, this is like some kind of cosmic chamber, you know, stars everywhere in it. It's presented as very clearly otherworldly. So this seems to, if not confirm, at least help solidify my theory that when you get close to death, you can access this place. You know, going into the light, you will end up in this kind of place beyond the mundane world, where I guess this woman who's speaking Arabic exists in perpetuity. The taking of the eyes thing, I don't know where that's going. Like that seems like it's probably important, and seems like this woman also has the gift of foresight, which I guess the OA is just displaying kind of like nascent signs of as well. Although hers seems to be, she has a nosebleed as she has a premonition, and has the nosebleed again when the event is about to occur, which I assume is going to come back, maybe with a bit of dramatic irony later in the series. But yeah, with the taking of the eyes thing, I can't even begin to imagine where that's going. It's seems like an abstract thing at the moment, but we shall see.
We shall see. Awesome. So last thing I wanted to mention about the episode, it ends going back to Prairie, back to the OA, and she says, and I couldn't see anything at all. And that was the end. So it sort of implies, whoa, this is a big thing. She lost her sight. You know, where's this going to go? So I think that's pretty much the episode done at this point, Konrad. First episode in the bag. Do you want to go into the roundup then?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, so IMDb rating 8.2. So it's quite a high rating out the gate for this one.
I don't think I would give it that high a rating. I don't want to give the impression I didn't enjoy this, because I did, but it was salvaged. I think it was a mediocre episode that was salvaged by a very strong ending. I was interested in the beginning. I didn't buy a lot of the characterization in the middle, but then the 87 Russia stuff really brought it back. So I'd probably put this in the 7s somewhere if I was going to pick it. I'd say, you know, it's good, but and it's certainly an interesting opening to the show. I wouldn't say it's the strongest episode I've ever seen, though.
Fair enough. I think I probably like the style of the show, the patience of the show, the way they've portrayed it, plus the extra bit at the end with all that intrigue. I think it's, for me, I think 8.2 is fair for me. I think I would agree with you. Like, if you were going to give it stars out of 5, you know, for you, you don't do half stars, so I suppose 7 rounds up. I suppose 7 rounds up. So we're looking at around the same there. So yeah, like, you know, to be honest with you, if you're watching a TV show and you get about a 7.5 out of 10 for your first episode, you're gonna watch. You know, it's gonna want to watch the next one.
Yeah, you know, it's a 3-star episode. Like I you know, I don't want to give the impression that that's bad, especially for people who've seen the Anthonys in the crowd who probably love this show. It wasn't bad. There was definitely some good stuff in there. I think it's still trying. It felt like dramatically it was still trying to find its feet a little bit to me. So I will be very interested to see how that shakes out over the next couple of episodes.
Awesome. Okay, so are there any theories that you could say coming out of this? Again, we're not committing anything to paper. But we'll sort of just come in at the end here and think: is there any overall theory or anything you wanted to mention?
So obviously, there's the kind of broad thing, which is that it seems like by getting close to dying, you are able to access this kind of like astral plane area, which I think is where she met Homer and where she met the other people that she was talking about to the police. I think that there's going to be characters that we meet throughout this show who she has met in this place who, like, they don't seem to know each other. So I'm looking forward to seeing who else we might meet. I'm looking forward to seeing who the old woman is, because I presume she's gonna come back in some way. I'm trying to think if there's anything else really. Well, obviously those 2 characters at the beginning aren't actually her parents, so what's going on there? How do they
There also is the question of the forthcoming appearance of Jason Isaacs at some point.
Yeah, I was looking out for Jason Isaacs in this. Like, come on, Jason, give me that good Jason stuff. Joy in this one, but I'm hotly anticipating his arrival in the show. But yeah, so I'll tell you what, I'm gonna fire from the hip. Like, that was my. If we put like a stock sound effect in there. Yeah, that could be a new segment, like Konrad's Hot Shots round.
Yeah.
So I mean, the question is, how did she get displaced from Russia to somewhere in America, and then, you know, where did she disappear for seven years? So I think for how she got displaced, I'm going to say she has premonitions, and I think that's separate to the astral plane projection stuff, maybe. So I'm going to say there's maybe some kind of experimentation, jiggery pokery going on with her, like in Russia, that gave her access to some of these abilities, which then maybe her family needed to flee from either the government or something along those lines. Like the Voy, I think, is, I don't know enough about Russian post-communism kind of society to know what the Voy was, but that seems like, I mean, they arranged for all those kids to be killed. So that's obviously a threat to her family. So I assume she is being displaced from Russia to America by fleeing these people who are trying to have them killed. And I guess she's going to be either adopted by these American parents because her biological parents have died, or they've abandoned her or something like that. Yeah, so that's the big one. Where has she been for 7 years? I'm going to say she's been in like a coma or something for 7 years. That's my guess. Or like in stasis somewhere where she's had access to that astral plane for 7 years, because that's about the length of time it would take to have like a good relationship with, you know, Homer and all the other people she knew there.
Okay, awesome. So your overall sort of view of this death thing that they're talking about is that when you're in this position of like coma or whatever, you can access this other plane.
Yeah, so maybe other places as well. Like maybe that like kind of astral place with a woman speaking Arabic is almost like a hub world that allows you access to other places beyond the material plane. That'd be cool. I'd love to see something like that.
A little bit like the new Pixar film Soul, where when you're in the zone, you can go to a certain place.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Okay. So let's get into one or two. We got one or two questions from the listeners. So we'll get into them now.
Yeah. Awesome. Let's do it.
A stranger from the outside.
All right. So questions. If you want to leave a question for Konrad about episode 2, or even just something about episode 1, or in general about the show, put them in underneath this video. All right, so first question comes from Donnie Starts. And Donnie Starts asks, so we know Prairie was blind and had been missing, and then showed back up again and was able to see. Do you think that she went missing purposefully, or do you think that she was abducted? Good question.
So how old is she supposed to be in this show now? I guess like late 20s, maybe, like early 30s.
Well, I would say mid 20s. I think when she's gone for 7 years, I would imagine she went missing when she was sort of late teens.
Okay,
that's what I think. But I might be wrong.
I'm going to say she was initially abducted because I don't believe that she, by the age of 7, particularly if we look at where her character seems to have grown up, she seems to like the stuff in Russia seems to be displacing her from the area that could explain her powers and what's going on pretty quickly. Like they're getting her away from Russia because there's a threat there, or that's how it seems to be. That's how it seems to be going. They're displacing her to America with parents who maybe they know more than they're letting on, but the impression I get from her parents or her parents, her adopted parents, that sounds dismissive to put it in air quotes. The impression that we're given of them is that they don't really understand any of what's going on in the OA's head. So I doubt that there was anyone with her in her formative years saying, oh, by the way, this is what that means, which makes me think that when someone came to her when she was 17 or 16 or however old she was and says, by the way, you're a superhero, let's go, I don't think she would understand or be in a position to even begin to process the information she was given there. So I think she was probably abducted at first, and then taught about who she was, and that will lead her to settling into the place that she ended up for 7 years, which is why she stayed there for as long as she did. I don't know why she left. That's kind of where that's what I'm most focused on at the moment. Like, did she leave unwillingly, or did she get sent back for something? That's kind of what I'm really fascinated to find out at the moment.
Interesting. Okay, awesome. Next question comes from Shelley, and Shelley says, Shelley was gonna. I think she was planning on being a Konrad, but she watched the first episode and then ended up binging it over the weekend. There,
Shelley, the road not taken.
Welcome to the club.
We don't want you anyway.
Plenty of toast Hawaii to go around, Shelley. So, question to Konrad is: do you think Prairie will be a force for good or evil?
I think so. This character seems to be operating on a level above the ideas of human morality to some extent. Like, she doesn't really seem to see things in the same kind of moral light as a lot of the characters, as a lot of the kind of mundane characters around her. Like, she doesn't really have any qualms about what she does with Steve, for instance. Like, she doesn't stop to think, oh, this is morally wrong to impersonate this person's mother, which makes me think she's probably just going to be this, I don't want to say neutral, but almost amoral. So she may do some things that are quite bad because they are in service of a greater good that only she is aware of. So yeah, I don't think she's going to be a good guy. I think it's going to be a lot more grey than that.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. And Shelley has another question.
Okay.
Do you have any guesses about what the OA means?
Here we go. All right. So I a long time ago played a role-playing game called Vampire the Masquerade, and there's a clan of vampires in that called the Assamite, or they used to be called the Assamite. They're not anymore. So I'm going to say it stands for Original Assamite, because she's clearly a vampire, because she needs to be invited into people's homes before she can go into them. So
it's interesting to me that you straight away, like originally about 20 minutes ago or whatever, when we were first talking about this, for some reason, the O for you stood for original.
Yeah, I'll tell you exactly why it was, because as soon as she said the OA, my mind, I don't know why it did this.
OG.
Because, well, yeah, so it went to OG, and then I started singing the Offspring song, Original Prankster, in my... Original Prankster? Is that what it's called? I can't remember.
Original Prankster.
Yeah, in my head. And that's just stuck in there. So that's locked in now. It's original, and then another word, but really it's OG, but with Original Prankster as kind of her theme song. So
Fair enough. Okay. And last one comes from Vic. Now, Vic is a Konrad for this show.
Oh, lovely.
But
Welcome to the club, Vic.
He still has a question for you, though. Why do you think Prairie asked the nurse whether she flatlined?
Well, because I think that's that near-death experience. I think you have to get to. It's a lot. I think where they're going is a lot like the movie Flatliners, which I don't know if you ever see, but basically when
I know of it.
Yeah, basically the plot of that movie is it's a group of, I think they're like medical students, and they realize that as you are flatlining, you get access to, I can't even remember what you get access to, but you see some crazy world, you get access to some crazy abilities, but obviously you can't stay there for long. You have to be brought back from it. And I wonder if this is going to a similar place where you really need to push yourself right to the edge of dying in order to get access to this plane of existence where we're seeing this crazy astral projection stuff going on.
Interesting. Okay, and Ted just adds a little comment here, which I think's pretty funny, so I will include it. It says, I've been watching American series all my life, and this was the first time I have ever seen people taking off their shoes before going into the house. In Canada, our mothers would have beat us silly if we came in trouncing around with them on.
Yeah, I'm right there with you, to be honest. Like when people come into my flat and leave their shoes on, they are immediately excommunicated. Like, well, I can't be friends with this person anymore because they're clearly a monster.
Let's be honest, even if I'm taking a short walk to a friend's house or just going to the shop or whatever, when I get to someone's house or even my own house, the first thing I want is toes on the carpet. I want to feel that comfort of the carpet on my toes.
Absolutely. Like, go barefoot. Like, live that life. That's the dream that we all want to live. I don't know why you'd be so wedded to the idea of wearing shoes.
Exactly. All right, so that is us finished the first episode. If you have any questions about the next one, make sure you put them below. I'm really happy with how that went. I will say that for anyone who's just joined us for the OA, I just want to reiterate, there are some people who are Konrads who have not seen the show before. So just be careful with spoilers and stuff in the comments. Our Dark community from it when we did Dark are very good with spoiler tagging things. So make sure you do that. Just we want to be accommodating to all. But I'm really looking forward to it. I think we've had a good start. I've really enjoyed talking about the show. It's always going to feel a bit strange, I think, moving through into a different series, but I think we've managed to have a pretty successful conversation about this show there, and I think there's plenty of meat on the bone, as I would say, which I've never said before, but I will say it now.
Just bring that phrase into your lexicon.
Plenty of meat on the bone. Just before we go on, I do want to say that if you want to grab one of those t-shirts that we have, my wife so diligently put together for us. Again, it's just a little memento for the journey we went on with Dark. If you want to pick up one of those, then they are at the link in the description. In terms of being limited edition, I'm not sure. We'll probably just leave that up. If you want to get one, you can get one. You know what I mean? There's already a few people who've got one, and enjoy it. I will be getting one eventually once I come. Yeah, and we'll both wear them proudly on the podcast. Apart from that, Konrad, is there anything you wanted to add this week?
No, not really. Just that I'm Konrad, and according to Steve, welcome to Jackass. We're gonna be doing lots of handstands on roofs in the near future.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's like I think it takes us back to like the first ever episode of the After Dark podcast when you talked about being on top of a shed. Oh,
absolutely. Back in those halcyon days of episode 1 or 2, whenever that was. I think that was our first episode.
I listened back to that, and like it's so gravelly, and like the static is through the roof. We had no idea what we were doing.
It's like we recorded it on a gramophone.
Yeah. Well, we weren't far off. Let's be honest. All right, guys. Thanks very much. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube if you haven't already. Subscribe on audio apps as well if that's how you prefer to listen to your podcasts. Could you please also comment, like the video, all that sort of stuff really helps. If you want to send us an email, it's adpod@gmail.com. adpodmail, I should say, @gmail.com. Apart from that, nothing else to say. I'll see you for episode 2 next week. Goodbye.
Thank you for listening. The After Dark podcast has been a Culture Cave production. Please subscribe on audio apps as well as on YouTube at The Culture Cave. Join us next week as Konrad journeys further into the unknown.